Hello and welcome to a Fitbit by a Bostonian and a Brit, where we take a fitness topic, talk about it, and have lots of fun while doing so.
And I'm your host, Chris Litton.
Hi, and thank you for joining us for episode 4. It's Chris Litton along with Marny and Marge. And today we're going to be talking about tips to hiring the right trainer for you. So, Marge, let's start with you. You've been training for half your life?
Yeah, just about.
So, go ahead, please.
Okay, well, I go way back, starting back east, when I lived back east. And given that I had so many issues, I had to sort of make sure I had someone who understood those. So I was very lucky in the gym that I worked in back east. There was a physical therapy office downstairs in the gym that I worked out at. So I cornered this fellow who was just in training to be a physical therapist. And I said, Mark, do you do personal training? And he said, no. And I said, how would you like to do personal training? And at that time, they were just learning about scoliosis. And guess what? I had scoliosis, so we sort of had a very symbiotic relationship. So to me, it was very important to have a personality. That was really much more important than actually, how much do you know? And it's a rapport. I mean, they call it personal. I said this from the very beginning. They call it personal training for a reason. There's nothing more personal than spending an hour, 2-3 times a week than with your personal trainer, because you talk about everything. You talk about yourself, your family, your kids, whatever, relationships. And if you don't have that rapport, it's not going to work. I don't care how.
What about you, Marny?
The main thing I look for is somebody who can understand what I'm saying.
I'm out.
So that's why I ditched you. Yeah, I didn't have that problem in England. Well, I did sometimes, but not too often. It is a personal thing, like Marge said. You've got to get on with the person that you're working with, and you've got to trust them. I do look for experience, but having said that, since I've been working with Body Basics, I'm working with a very young trainer who I absolutely love, and we work together very well. Everywhere I've gone, I've had different experiences. I've had a lot of injuries through working with people who've pushed me to do things that I wasn't sure whether I could do or not. They assured me I could, and I ended up hurting myself. So I'm looking for somebody with experience, and I have learned through working with Christian that, experience does come with age, but it also comes with knowledge. So that's what I look for.
Especially at Body Basics, being over 65, 70, they want to know, a lady especially coming in, wants to know, what do you do with the schmaltz that's hanging from my arm? They don't need to know that it's of this or it's that. I'm sure the trainers all know that name, but we're really not very impressed when you use all those technical names. If you'd like to throw them out once in a while just to show us that's fine. But to throw it out constantly to impress me doesn't really impress me. What I'm much more impressed with is talking to me as a person, not as, I know all this and you don't really know anything, because I'm really not very impressed. I'm much more impressed with you looking at me as a person and saying, okay, this is what I can do for you.
One of the things I really appreciate is when somebody says to me, I don't know, but I'll find out.
It's the funniest thing you say that, because the very first thing I said to Chris, when I very first met him 27 years ago, I said, what do you know about scoliosis? He said, well, I know what it means, but I really don't know much about it, but I'll look it up. And I said, well, at least he didn't, try to snow me and say, well, it's this, it's that. He told me he didn't really know much about it. He knew it meant curvature of the spine, but that was it. And then we've learned it together. Over the 27 years, we both learned, what it means and what it can do and what the limitations are. So, yeah, that's very impressive to admit you don't know.
Yeah.
Very true.
So Marny, you spoke to an experience where you were pushed beyond your capacity and you ended up injuring yourself.
Yeah.
What about, just kind of anecdotally for both of you, an experience where you were able to overcome through a quality trainer, the one that had the personality or has the personality, has the balance of smarts to complement that and provide a quality service? An experience from both of you where you have been able to overcome an obstacle that you thought you had safely and effectively?
Well, I think the very first trainer that I went to in the States in Salt Lake City, and that was the first time I started working out after my 2 back surgeries. I was really, really frightened, and he showed me what to do. And after, I don't know, I suppose 2 months of working out with him, we started off really, really carefully. The pain really diminished greatly, and it gave me confidence to go on and try more.
That's awesome. What about you, Marge?
Well, you know, I started with a couple of other trainers before you, and we didn't know then what we know now about scoliosis in my back. And I just, you know, I had a bad back, and after my surgery, I just, you know, had a back with limitations. The thing that I admired about the way you treated me, you never made a program as though, okay, she has this rod in her back, and she has a 10-inch rod, and she used to have this curve. You made a program as though I was, quote, normal, well, as normal as I can be. And there were a few times that you came up with an exercise, and I tried to do it, and I'd say, I just can't do this. And you said, yes, you can. And I said, no, I really can't. I mean, there was maybe 2 or 3 times in the 27 years we've been together that I just couldn't do it. Not because of pain, my body just didn't move that way. I mean, I did have a couple of limitations. You accepted that, and then we moved on. But I have to say, I had a trainer, this Mark that I told you about at the beginning, and I shared it with Christopher, and I think this is something that other clients could use when they're assessing a trainer. It's called the 45-second rule, and I think it's a great rule to throw out to anybody who's training with a trainer. You do an exercise that you've never done before, and after you're done with the 40 seconds or 45 seconds, you really hurt, whatever muscle you're training, whether it's your lower back or your bicep, and you really hurt. And you're complaining, oh, my back hurts or whatever, but you get up and you walk around, and after 45 seconds, that pain goes away. Well, guess what? It's not because the exercise is bad for you. It's because that particular muscle you were working is really weak. That's what this Mark taught me. That's the sign of someone, well, okay, yeah, it hurts you, but we'll do it again. So you have to know when it's time to give up and when it's time to say, okay, we'll work on that. And like Chris has always said to me, there's never a word called I can't or I won't. It's always I'll try. And as I say, except for maybe 2 or 3 exercises in all these years, there's never been any exercise that I can't do. And I think that's the whole ball game. There are some times when the pain is too debilitating, but also there's 1,000 different ways to skin the cat. If you can't do the exercise that the trainer is throwing at you that he has on his sheet, well, there's another way to do it. And there's another way, you know, I mean, nothing's written in stone, you know. So I think that's a sign of a good trainer too, who on the spot can say, oops, that's not gonna work. Let's do something else.
So the bullet point.
To be taught to differentiate between the pain of a tired muscle and the pain of a muscle where you're injuring yourself.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's a difference. And a temporary pain while you're doing the exercise that, as I say, will go away, and a pain that's just not going to work for you. It's not good for you. And there is a difference.
So the bullet points that I'm pulling from both of you are personality, likability. So there has to be some means of connection between you and the trainer. There has to be some level of experience, but not so much that it has to be, well, not so much that it's so much. It doesn't have to be professed. It's more valuable actually that it's subdued and understood, and it's more in the application than it is in the actual voicing of knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other piece would be that balance between prompting or pushing and overdoing. All right. I think we tackled that one appropriately.
Chris, can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
Conversely,
Yeah.
have you ever had a client that you couldn't work with?
So to answer your question, I make a point to see how I can serve that purpose, and I go from there. So if I'd say where it can get challenging is if somebody has hired me for a particular goal or goals, and I'm establishing a process that's aligning with that direction, and there's not as much receipt on the other side, that's usually where it ends up fizzling out.
So what do you do in that kind of circumstance?
So what I've learned to do over the years is I think of it as a scale of 1 to 10. So let's say that somebody, in terms of their goals and when they're expressing what they want to accomplish, they're saying that they're an 8, but their actions are actually showing more like a 6. Well, then I'm going to stop training at an 8 or 9 level, and I'm going to start bringing it to a 6, 7 level so that I can see if I can pull them up. And so that's how I approach that. That's how I focus that.
So you never actually give up on anyone?
No.
I don't give up. I will not. I will stay with the person and keep trying to bring them along, because what I found is that everyone has their timelines and it's not my timeline. I'm part of that process. As long as they believe in the dynamic and they're wanting to commit to that, then I'm going to stay that course and keep inserting that mindset language and giving pieces of information and so on that I feel are meeting them at that stage that they're at. And then I'm just anticipating and hopeful for that jump.
We're excited to see you every week for our show, A Fit Bit with a Bostonian and a Brit. Thank you.